I mean, she's unbelievably creative because she's not unbelievably talented. She's not beautiful, but she's kind of...
She was bold, confident, and unapologetic. For decades, the California native behind hits like Believe and If I Could Turn Back Time kept her true feelings hidden behind that beautiful smile. What if every single one of Cher's feuds wasn't random at all, but the ripple effect of one betrayal, so shocking it rewrote the way she trusted everyone around her? And when you uncover what that betrayal was, every jab, every silence suddenly makes sense. Today, Cher finally reveals the 6 musicians she hated the most. From rock legends who dismissed her talent, to rivals she confronted, to betrayals that cut deeper than fame itself. But the last betrayal? It wasn't just a feud, it was the ultimate heartbreak, one that changed the course of her entire career. Stay tuned, because some of these feuds reveal a side to humanity we all avoid talking about. Number 6. Don Henley. He was the leader of the Eagles, the man who had to change his approach to music for the sake of his band.
So I had to teach myself how to sing and play drums at the same time.
This man, who rarely has beefs, made his way onto Cher's not-so-long hate list. Insiders say she hasn't even forgotten about what he said to this date. In the early 1980s, Cher was known as one of the top pop artists to walk the planet. But her hatred towards Henley began when she decided to transition to something different: rock. Cher had conquered the pop world and was eager to prove to everyone that even in a strange land, she could dominate. To ease the transition, she wanted to enter with a bang. But this is where the drama began. Her team hinted at the idea of her having a duet with one of the rock legends, Don Henley. What happened next made its way to every newspaper, magazine, and media outlet. Henley didn't just decline the offer. Insiders say he made a statement of it. This statement was so viral that everyone wanted to know what Cher would reply to it. For Cher, who had spent decades making her style and proving to the world it was worth listening to, what he said wasn't disapproval. They were words that dismissed her entire life's work. And that, coming from a man she respected and saw as an idol, hurt more than anything. What did Henley say? Well, according to insiders, Henley totally dismissed the idea of collaborating with Cher. He didn't even consider her to be a real singer, allegedly. It was an attack that not only crushed her, but discouraged her from venturing into rock. But as the saying goes, destiny can only be delayed, not denied. She eventually ventured into rock and dominated it. When asked about working with classic rock acts, Cher's response wasn't only sly, but direct. She said, "There's a certain rock frontman who didn't think I had the pipes, but he was wrong." She never mentioned Henley directly, but when she was asked her opinion on the band The Eagles, her reply said 1,000 words. She said, "Not my kind of band. I like singers that are not afraid to sing." This wasn't just a cold remark. It was her giving a direct jab of her own. She wasn't just shading him. It was her way of saying, this wasn't just a cold remark. It was her giving a direct jab of her own. She wasn't just shading him. It was her way of saying, look at me now. She didn't just tell the world that no genre was out of her reach. She proved it. You think her clapback to the legend who didn't consider her a real singer was cold? Wait until you hear about the artist whose desperate plea for collaboration was met with something even more devastating than rejection. Number 5. Courtney Love. When this icon tried to collaborate with Cher, the response she received became legendary, shattering hopes into 1,000 pieces. In the early 2000s, Courtney Love had ruined her own career. She did a lot of things unbecoming of an artist. Public erratic behavior, flashing the crowd at Brazil's SWU festival, addiction, and so much more.
A lot of drugs, a lot of free rent.
This took her career on a declining path. Desperate to reignite her career, she reached out to several established artists, begging for an opportunity to collaborate. Every other artist gave polite declines. But Cher's response made Courtney regret her decision altogether. Cher's response wasn't a no. It was complete silence. No statement through representatives, no polite decline, no acknowledgement that Courtney ever reached out to her. Cher had worked with artists like her in the past, and she was definitely not going to make such mistakes ever again. Something about Courtney's approach to fame crossed a line that Cher found unforgivable. Cher's refusal to respond wasn't simply a professional decision, it was a statement. She respected artists with actual hustle, not those desperate for attention. One thing she would never support was a controversial figure who was controversial for all the wrong reasons. Cher worked hard and long for the respect she had in the industry, and she wasn't ready to throw it all away just to help out a desperate, failing artist. Her silence spoke louder than words, and everyone got the message. But if you think silence was Cher's coldest weapon, wait until you discover the terrifying encounter that happened when she was just a teenager, one that could have destroyed her before she even began. Number 4. Phil Spector. Before Cher became the powerhouse icon we know today, her first encounters with legendary producer Phil Spector nearly scarred her for life. And it wasn't just about music. At just 15, Cher was introduced to Spector by musician Antonino Lotempio, her boyfriend at the time. Meeting the man behind the wall of sound seemed like a dream, until his behavior turned chilling. What happened that day would shape how Cher approached every recording contract for decades. Spector had a need for perfection, wanting every recording, every song, every album to be as perfect as possible. Cher does give him his kudos for giving her early opportunities. According to Cher, the memoir, Phil Spector's infamous perfectionism went far beyond demanding flawless takes. Unlike typical producers, he pushed artists to record countless repetitions.
We never left the studio. I mean, we went home to take a shower and come back. We didn't go home for 6 weeks.
But that wasn't all. At just 15, Cher recalls Spector staring at her in a way that made her uneasy, even making sexual advances at her in French. Coolly and audaciously, she refused, refusing to comply with his advances. In the same memoir, she said years later, the producer crossed another line. He used her vocals in a single released in Europe without her permission, violating her contract. When Cher confronted him, Spector tried to intimidate her, even pulling out a gun. But Cher revealed she didn't cave, she didn't bend, she stood her ground firmly. No one believed her, but after it was revealed that he murdered actress Lana Clarkson in 2006, the world began to see his true colors. It became obvious to Cher how ruthless the people who stood at the top were. This experience didn't just shape her future decisions, it scarred her for life. Cher's situation with Spector showed one thing: no one, not even the legend who created an opportunity for her, had the right to treat her like trash. This situation with Spector was the turning point of her life. She entered the hotel room a child, but left a woman. But that traumatic experience was nothing compared to the public humiliation that awaited her, with a pop icon whose attitude toward others would spark one of music's most legendary feuds. Number 3. Madonna. Cher was one to notice the littlest of things, and she took notice of a constant behavior by this particular artist that led her to make comments that spoke volumes about Madonna's character. In 1991, interviewer Steve Kometko casually suggested Madonna was a rule breaker like Cher.
She reminds me professionally, career-wise, she's somebody who speaks her mind.
Yeah.
She's somebody who's gone against the grain.
But what happened next was anything but casual. Cher's response struck a nerve, igniting one of the biggest feuds in pop history. Insiders also revealed that Madonna and Cher had tensions already. During a non-public dinner, Cher questioned how Madonna treated people around her, from staff to fellow guests. Everyone thought it was just a minor thing. No one knew that tension would leave that room and make its way to the headlines. Their drama wasn't about awards or rankings. Cher believed in respecting the people around her, and though she respected Madonna's talent,
She's unbelievably creative. I mean, I'm amazed at the amount.
She still felt that Madonna's behavior needed to be worked on.
Talented. She's not beautiful, but she's rude and
Cher hated rudeness. She didn't see it as a way successful women should conduct themselves. Cher's criticism wasn't about Madonna's music or success. It was about how she acted when she had gained fame. Throughout Cher's career, one thing that stood out about her was her respect towards people. She didn't care about backgrounds or status, but nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared Cher for the betrayal that was coming next. A man she loved deeply was about to shatter not just her heart, but destroy the most precious friendship she had. If you're already shocked by this first revelation, hit subscribe and the notification bell, because the betrayals we're about to uncover get much worse. Number 2. Gene Simmons. The Kiss frontman's actions didn't just end his relationship with Cher, they destroyed something even more precious to her. Gene Simmons and Cher were a couple that made headlines, having a relationship envied by many. He helped care for her children. He was everything one could want in a man. Not only did he gush about her intelligence in interviews, he appeared to be a very devoted partner. But their fairy tale ended in the most humiliating way possible. Cher was not only betrayed by someone she thought was the love of her life, she was also betrayed by her best friend. Cher innocently asked her best friend to help Simmons pick out a present for her birthday, not knowing it was going to be the worst mistake she'd ever made.
My best friend Diana's there. Just call her up, tell her I told you, and she should take you shopping. She knows what I like.
To top this off, this betrayal wasn't done behind closed doors. It was done for the world to see. Simmons later boasted about the affair.
That I know. Weren't you dating Cher before that? And did you cheat on Cher with Diana Ross?
Of course.
Yes.
He admitted this turned messy, and that Cher and Diana never spoke thereafter.
They stopped talking to each other after you went to New York.
What made Cher hate him wasn't the act he did, but the attitude he displayed after doing such a horrible thing. Unlike most men, Simmons wasn't apologetic. He didn't see it as something to be ashamed of, but something to carry with pride. In almost every interview he didn't just discuss this affair, he continued to brag about his conquest, describing how he had dated both women and destroyed their friendship in the process. The public nature of his boasting added humiliation to heartbreak. Cher had not only lost a boyfriend and best friend, but had to endure the torture of watching him turn their private pain into entertainment. Years later, when reflecting on Simmons in her memoir, Cher, the Memoir Part 1, and in interviews, Cher described their relationship as intense and liberating, but also traumatic once he left her for Diana Ross. Cher has said what cut the deepest wasn't only losing Simmons to Diana Ross, but the way the whole thing was displayed to the public. What should have stayed a private heartbreak was plastered as headlines, constantly reminding her of the painful moments. But even this devastating betrayal pales in comparison to the ultimate deception, one that came from the very person who was supposed to protect her most. The man who built her career was also the one who stole everything from her. And Number 1. Sonny Bono. At number 1 is the biggest betrayal of Cher's life, one that didn't come from an enemy, but from the man who shared her spotlight. They looked like the perfect couple, but behind the hit songs and TV smiles, Sonny Bono pulled off one of the most shocking betrayals in music history. Behind the matching outfits and playful banter that made Sonny and Cher America's favorite couple was a reality few could have imagined. To the world, they looked perfect, playful, glamorous, inseparable.
Well, I was born in Los Angeles, and I started by meeting Sonny.
But offstage, Cher's marriage to Sonny was built on control, contracts, and manipulation. The charming husband audiences adored was also a shrewd businessman, quietly making Cher's life a constant living hell. What seemed like a partnership was, in truth, a system of ownership. And when the marriage fell apart, what Cher discovered during their divorce would shock her to the core. From the outside, Sonny looked like the supportive husband who built Cher's career. After all, he had learned the craft of hit-making directly under Phil Spector, and he used those same tricks to launch Cher from a nobody into a superstar. But behind the scenes, Sonny wasn't just producing records. He was quietly arranging contracts, companies, and deals in a way that always left him in control. For Cher, the deepest wound wasn't just Sonny's infidelity or control. It was the betrayal of her trust with money. She believed they were equal partners, splitting everything as husband and wife. In reality, every paycheck, Every royalty, every TV contract was funneled into Cher Enterprises, a company Sonny owned 95% of, while his lawyer owned the other 5%. Cher herself owned nothing. During divorce proceedings, Cher finally uncovered the truth. She wasn't even legally married in the way she thought. She was locked into an employment contract. Sonny owned her publishing, their management company, and the profits from their biggest hits. I didn't even know I was broke until I left him. In interviews, she expressed her confusion about what could make someone do such a thing.
I said, at what point, like what time of the day or the night, or what were you doing when you thought, I'm going to take Cher's money?
But here's the bigger secret. Sonny wasn't unique. This was an industry blueprint. Male managers and husbands routinely kept women under contracts that gave them power, money, and control. Sonny just perfected the system. End. Looking back, it's clear Cher's feuds were never just celebrity drama. They were survival tactics shaped by one ultimate betrayal. When Don Henley dismissed her, it wasn't just about rock credibility. It echoed the same dismissal Sonny once gave her. Courtney Love's despected reach felt familiar, reminding Cher of the chaos she once let into her life through others' control. Phil Spector's intimidation wasn't just a creepy producer. It was a warning sign of the power men thought they could hold over her. Even Madonna's rudeness cut deeper, because Cher had already lived through what happens when you give your respect to the wrong person. And Gene Simmons' betrayal? That wound echoed the same humiliation Sonny had carved years before. Love turned into leverage. Suddenly, it all connects. Every silence, every jab, every clapback wasn't just sass, it was armor. Because after Sonny, Cher could never afford to let anyone own her again. Her smile wasn't just confidence, it was a shield. And the real revelation is this. Cher didn't just survive betrayal, she turned it into the strategy that kept her untouchable for 6 decades. That's why every feud, every reinvention, every icy remark makes perfect sense. Cher wasn't fighting people. She was fighting to never be owned again. If you're already shocked by this first revelation, hit subscribe and the notification bell, because the betrayals we're about to uncover get much worse.